This is the Working Writer Podcast, episode 51. All right, it's time once again for the Working Writer Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. This, of course, is the podcast that if you're a writer, you want to get into writing, or you are writing, I'm hoping will help a little bit with your motivation around here. You're going to stick with us for the next hour because we've got an incredible guest coming up. But I am your intrepid host, Brad Staggs, as always, and producer Dave Bennell, who, of course, without him, none of this would be possible. No, I'm not kidding. Literally, none of this would be possible. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. I always have a good time making these work and seeing like what can I get away with in the edit.
What you can get away with. That is true. You did make me a robot once, so
I made you a robot. And if you go back to the a couple weeks ago, the Alice Shin episode, I took a picture from you from 1985 and put you in the Barnes and Nobles, and I added a shirt from the Born in the USA Bruce Springsteen 85 tour. It was my personal favorite. I didn't hear anything about it. Like, it was a little upsetting. I was hoping I was going to get a text or something. I got nothing.
Yeah, the day's not over yet.
That's true. but yeah,
my eye was probably acting up at that point.
Oh yeah, you probably didn't see it. That was a problem.
See?
How are things going with you? You got any reading or writing you got going on now?
I have been doing so much writing because I've got a project that an actual novel project that I'm trying to get done, and then turn that novel into a script at some point in time. But I actually have to do things like make myself do it.
Yeah, because that's a part you got.
As I always say, it's not being motivated, it's being dedicated, because motivation is temporary, dedication is permanent. So if you're going to do something, you have to it needs to become habit. And writing it's not only enjoyable, it needs to be a habit to keep doing. My question for you then, Dave, back to you, is when you first started creating, because I remember when you first started doing shorts, I remember the things that you were doing. How hard was it for you at that time to find an outlet?
Just film festivals, trying to get things involved, putting in there was a thing I did called the Unscripted series, where it was at a public library, actually a big one in Kentucky. And you went there, and people that were interested in independent film came there, and it was neat. You showed your film, and then you did a second viewing of the short film with live director's commentary, which that was kind of fun. I think the first project I got together was I met some other indie filmmakers who were doing a lot of low budget stuff, and none of us were known. And we all kind of got together and put a anthology together where we all submitted a short, and we had like 10 filmmakers on there. And I did a couple of those. They were called the Collectives. And that's going way back. Some good films, some bad films, some interesting things. But it was a way to kind of dive into the community and meet other artists and people that wanted to do this, because that was during the beginning of the DSLR craze, where it's like you could make things look good on a budget that you could never have done before.
I still have a copy of that DVD. That's right, kids, DVDs. Physical media.
At some point, we want to get it, put on Blu-ray, but I think it actually might look better if we put it on Laserdisc or VHS.
Laserdisc or Beta. Has to be on Beta.
It needs to be on a format that nobody can watch it on. That's one of the things that kind of goes along with who we have on this week, because at that time when I was starting out, and I've always been big on visuals. I'm a visual person. I like the look of things. I was really weak on writing, and I go back and I watch some of those things, and it's like, man, I should have gotten somebody to help me write it. And if I could go back in time and redo some of those things and actually get a writer I'll make a treatment and send it to them and like, hey, can you flesh this out? I think that would have really improved some of my earlier films. And our guest this week, Anthony David, that's actually one of the techniques he does. He writes his short films, but with some of the feature things, he actually collaborates a lot.
And I can't wait to talk to him about that, because for writers, please pay close attention, because just because you write on your own and you write your ideas doesn't mean that you won't be collaborating at some point in time with people who have good ideas. So be open to everything and listen to the guest that we've got coming up, Mr. Anthony David, coming up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a first for the Working Writer Podcast. Not only does today's guest, have over 30 films to his credit. That's right. I said 30, 30. But he used to own and operate two film festivals at the same time, an action film festival and a horror film festival. He is not only that, he's been a photojournalist, a director, a cinematographer, editor, and he owns Rad Entertainment. Please welcome to the podcast, Anthony David.
Thank you for having me.
You can't hear the studio audience, but they are going absolutely nuts right now.
That's great. I mean, I can hear them. I can feel them.
Well, good. You've got that imagination. I like that. That's a good start. Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. I have a very important question to start off today with because, you're from Indiana. I'm from Indiana. Producer Dave is from Indiana. We talk quite a bit about the Indiana connection. Nobody outside of Indiana quite expects what we would call artistic engagement in this state. We kind of surprise people all the time with what's going on around here. Why do you think that being from Indiana tends to give us more of an artistic side than some others?
I mean, I can only really speak from, I guess, my own personal experience, but I feel like a lot of my artistic vision comes from being surrounded by kind of like an area that is kind of oppressive towards the arts, and maybe not, consciously, but we're surrounded by factories, farm workers, just, fields and corn. And there's a level of, at least where I grew up, of not a very strong artist community there. I think I've found it over the years and helped to bring it to where I live now and helped cultivate that around the area that I'm from now. But it took a lot of time and a lot of connections being made and it's grown. But yeah, growing up, it was very oppressive, kind of just, the Midwest, and the winters are long and they're brutal and the wind is so harsh and cold and it's gray and you don't see sun for 6 months. And that can really drive some creativity.
Do you think maybe because when people with an artistic vision find each other, we kind of stick together?
Yeah, I do think so. I think that especially if it's somebody that you're like-minded with, and when you have clear vision and you can work together, even if you never work together necessarily, you still are like, let me, bend your ear from time to time and pick your brain on some things, because they're few and far between. I'm lucky enough now. I mean, I'm in Logansport, Indiana, and I would say Logansport over the course of me kind of growing up around this area, it's been getting stronger and stronger. But just in the last 5 years, the artist community here has just kind of started to boom. And I know some things that are in development here in town that are just going to push that into a more artistic direction and bring in a lot more artists. And it's going to get really cool here. And it's already cool, and it's just going to keep getting cooler.
After all, Logansport is Tropsnoggle spelled backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Now, something that I find interesting, and one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, is because when you're getting ready to make a film or when you're getting ready to make a short, you don't really write it out yourself. Is that right? You just do a treatment and then find writers who can flesh the whole thing out for you.
So with writing for me, I have written shorts. Some of the shorts that I've directed, I've written. I do like to write my own things, but when it comes to especially features, I tend to work with writers. So there's two writers that I work with pretty regularly. One's Jake Ryan Baker, and the other is Michael J. Taylor. But if you want to look him up on IMDb, but Michael and Jake are both incredible writers. They have their strong suits in different directions. So depending on what my idea is, I might pitch it to one or pitch it to the other. But when I do that, I typically like to write a treatment out. So I'll write what is essentially like a novel or like a short story. I'll write 20 pages or 30 pages and send it to them. And then see if they like it. I'll just like get a drink with them and hang out and just pitch them an idea and see if it interests them at first. And then I'll write up a treatment, send it to them. And then they are both really fast writers too. They can usually turn something around really quick and just go, is this, they'll turn around, write 20 pages of the script and send it back to me and just go, is this the right direction? Am I, hitting the tone that you're going for? We've just been working together for a long time now. So it's really easy to work with these guys and bounce ideas back and forth. But it can be, if they're completely going in the direction I don't think we need to be going, we can halt the brakes. They've only written 20 pages. We can completely start from scratch. Sometimes I'm like, maybe you're not the right guy for this, and I'll pitch it to the other guy. Or they've also collaborated on a script for me together where they've written it together as well.
What is it, when you get that back from them, what is it the first thing you're looking for in that script?
Well, I've worked with them now for so long that Michael's sense of humor is going to come through a script no matter how hard I try for it not to. Sometimes I've read enough of his scripts that I know the kind of jokes he's going to put in there. And I kind of have to accept that in the collaborative aspect of it. I know he's not going to be able to hold himself back. Those jokes are going to land, and his jokes are funny. I mean, I've grown to see and understand his sense of humor, and I do think that it works most of the time for what we're doing. Jake is a little bit more of a dramatic writer. So if something's a little bit more serious that I'm trying to put together, I might throw it to Jake. If it's more, not necessarily campy, but like if it's in that horror kind of slasher vibe, Michael's definitely, he knows those stories, really well. So, but when I'm reading that script and I'm looking, the first things I'm looking at when I'm going through it are kind of just, is the tone what I'm setting out to make? Because I usually have a tone pretty locked in my mind. And so that's usually the first thing is, okay, what can we change about this? Or how can I explain this better to you so you can understand the kind of movie I'm trying to make? Because it's not even really, have you got the story beats right or anything like that yet? It is the tone right? Are these new characters that you've injected into the story, do these characters work for that tone? Because, when you're writing, you're in a scene and you throw in another random character that wasn't in my 20 pages. That's not a feature. You know what I mean? You're going to inject more characters. You're going to, really start to dive into what that is. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes right now I'm writing a feature that is very close to me. It's very kind of inspired by some trauma in my life. And I pitched it to Jake. He wrote me back like 20 pages. I got really detailed and like broke down 40 scenes. Like, this is what each scene actually, what's going to happen in each scene. And he kept writing it back, and he's close, but he's just not quite nailing the tone of it. And it's nothing against him. It's just this one's really close to me. So I've kind of just decided that this is one I'm going to write because I'm too close to it on this one. And I try not to treat things like my baby when I'm working in a collaborative space like this. I'm usually very open to new ideas. I'm very like with The Undesirables is a feature that I'm currently in post-production on. And that feature, I gave Michael 20 pages. He wrote me a 90-page script pretty quick, turned it around. I was like, okay, we need to change this, bounce back and forth. I mean, there's some stuff in that script that he injected into it, some new characters, some of the like the backstory and like the world building stuff that I love that was not my idea. It was stuff that he put in there that I was like, I love that, because we were trying to come up with this dystopian future and like what that was. And it's kind of a Children of Men-esque, like there's not been a child born for like 10 years. And that aspect of it was not in my original treatment, but it just set a tone that makes kind of the whole movie.
I enjoyed watching the trailer for it. I watched the trailer today. We'll have a link to the trailer. Everybody should go watch it because I think it's going to be a fantastic film. When you're working with another writer, like you said, you keep having to bounce back and forth. That sounds very much like comic book writing to me back in the comic book writing days with the artist. At what point is there a certain point in your mind where you figure out this just isn't hitting? Some turn that you finally have to make yourself go, okay, I've got to go in another direction?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I've worked with these guys now at this point, these two guys, that we can usually figure it out. With this particular script that I've been working on for a while now, this one it's just a different beast because it's really personal, and it has like a lot going on with just kind of like my relationship with my parents and things like that. But it is a very dark comedy, and I think that the way it's written should be more like it's a drama, and the comedy is going to come out in the performance. So it's like what's written on the page isn't necessarily funny. So it's just trying to be like, I know how this movie is going to be directed, and you don't. You know, as much as I try to explain it, it's like you don't know. So when you're writing it, you're injecting comedy into it that is too funny, or it's too big for what it is.
Do you find it easier to direct when you've given up the bulk of the writing to somebody else?
Not necessarily. My problem with directing is that I come from a really technical space. I'm a cinematographer first, and then became a director after. And so I come from is the lighting right? Are you hitting your marks? Like when it comes to just, framing everything up, all this, that I'm so worried about all of that sometimes the performance I forget about in the moment in directing. And it's something that I've noticed about myself from every project I work on. And it's something that I try to improve every time, to a point where I've got a couple of guys now that I may be for the next thing that I make. I've got a cinematographer that I'm interested in using that would help me out with that, because a lot of times I'm pulling double duty. I'm DP and I'm directing.
When they're writing the script for you, do you want them to write it as if they're writing for a big budget movie and then you'll pare it down, or do you give them the budget stylings and say write to this budget first?
We don't really talk about budget when it comes to the story. I've come to a place where we're not like writing big superhero movies or anything. We know what budget we're most likely in, so they're not writing anything super super crazy. And the stories that I'm coming up with are stories that are gonna fall within the budget that we all just kind of know what we're working in. So that I'm sure that when they're writing it, they are keeping in mind of what we're actually going to be able to do. But we don't really talk about budget when we're writing. We're just coming up with it. And with the movie that I'm currently writing, with that one, I have some really big things in it that I already know how I'm going to shoot it to make it work within our budget, even though on paper it's going to sound really like, how are you going to do that? Like, I know they're going to read that because even if I write it, I'm going to send it to them for notes, and I know that they're going to be like, how do you plan on even doing that?
We've worked with you. We know you don't do this.
Yeah.
What is going on? Well, as long as it's uses the budget better than Terror Squad, everything will be fine. For anybody who's into Indiana film, Terror Squad, 1980s, you have to see it. What in your mind, because I'm sure almost anybody who writes has tons of stories just swirling around in their head at all times.
Well, yeah.
How do you separate what makes the good next story? And we're going to take the personal story out of it because that's a whole different animal.
Right.
But when you're just trying to write a script, what makes the next good story for you?
This is all story ideas, and I keep a notebook, and I write constantly in it. So I just have, the other day I was just scrolling TikTok, and there was a Mitch Hedberg joke that just popped up into my feed where he's talking about the photographers aren't the problem when it comes to photographing Bigfoot, that Bigfoot's just a big blurry monster. So he's just a big out of focus monster running around the woods. And I wrote down in my journal, like, horror movie about like a blurry monster. I was like, is there something there? Let me just put a pin in that for now. Like, what if we actually like tried to just take this Mitch Hedberg joke and run with that as like an entire plot piece? But so I write stuff down all the time. But to your question, I have recently started writing comic books. So there are some stories where I go, this is great for a movie and this is great for a comic book. And sometimes that's budget. Sometimes it's this is just entirely too big of an idea. I can't we're just not going to be able to get a budget that's going to be able to do that in live action. But if I'm paying an artist to draw a page, I'm paying him the exact same amount per page that if it's taking place in space or if it's just a street corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
So some of those big budget ideas that I have, I've started going, okay, well, what if I do comic book instead? And so I've been talking to a couple of different artists, and that is something that I'm hoping to accomplish this year, is to get an issue of a comic book out.
Good. Have you thought about going into the animation realm as well?
Not so much. I've done just a small little bit of animation with a couple of the features that I've done. Lowell Isaac is a Indiana animator artist that I've known for a long time. And so I've utilized him on a movie called Kill Dolly Kill. He did like an animated intro for that. And then my Rad Entertainment bumper is animated by him.
When we're talking about the size of the script, I think absolutely the things that you can't, back when we did ours in 1995, we could do superhero stuff and in a comic book and never have to spend an additional dime. That really is the way to do that. But when we're talking about small, micro, or no budget movies, depending on what's going on that day.
Oh yeah.
Where do you do because I know you have horror movies or you have movies with effects in them. We'll say that. Have you taught yourself how to do the effects? Do you get templates? Are you learning all the programs yourself and then putting them in final?
Okay, so it depends on the project. I have a little bit of a background in like Adobe After Effects. I have started to learn Unreal Engine. Mm-hmm. I have played around with using like LiDAR scans of rooms to like put it into Blender and try and rebuild out a room and incorporate the camera into that. I have a lot of like test shot stuff that I'm playing around with those ideas. I have not fully committed to putting any of those into a feature or anything like that. Definitely, I'm working with some like virtual production stuff in my free time. I do a lot of 48-hour film challenges every year, like the Indiana one. I've done that for the last 3 years. And for next year's, I'm toying with the idea of trying to pull off a virtual production one for that, because I think it could be fun.
48 hours.
In 48 hours. Just because I think that I can, with Unreal Engine, I think I can basically grab a pre-made world, in whatever genre we end up getting. Like I can just grab a world and just work with what kind of stock stuff I can get and maybe do something fun like that. I'm playing around with that as an idea. But typically with the horror stuff, I got effects guys that we bring in to do that. But when it comes to like anything computer generated, that's usually me. I have outsourced some things in the past. I have a movie that I was a gaffer on and producer on called Placid Park that was directed by Roman Josart. He's based out of kind of like Cincinnati area. He's a guy who collaborates with a lot. He's an incredible director and he's a good friend, but he found a crew out of Las Vegas that does a lot of like CG elements and compositing work, and got them to drive a grip truck all the way from Vegas to Ohio to film a movie last year. Those guys are currently doing a lot of VFX work for that movie, and they've been sending me shots, and it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, we just find the right people to work with.
Now, for those who are listening and or watching and don't know what we're talking about with 48-hour film festival, or you don't have one where you are, they're an incredible amount of fun. You literally get your genre, prop, and a line. Everybody who's competing, all the teams that are competing, get a different genre, but they must use a prop and a line in that within the film that they're going to write, film, edit, and produce in 48 hours. So if you want to learn how to write real quick on the run, you want to learn how to run and gun on the run, get involved in a 48-hour film festival competition, because it'll teach you what you can do fast and what you really can't do fast.
Yeah, we did one that was based out of Kokomo a few years ago, and that one was really small, and I think that the winner should have went to one of the like high school kids that was making something because they shot a movie that had really bad audio, and then so they ADR'd the whole thing, but they turned it into a mockumentary about the making of the movie that they were making, and they have found like this really creative way to fix their problem, and it was really funny. But we won that one, and we got like best actor and best director for that and something. But the Indianapolis ones, the last couple of years, we got best directing and best sound on the first year, and then last year, and we got second place overall, I think, on that one.
I haven't done one for quite a while because I'm always afraid that I'll get musical.
Dude, me too.
I'll just have to drop out at that point. It'll just be me with the ukulele going, I have no idea.
I have enough people here in Logansport that make music that I think I could pull together a musical. I really do. And sometimes, but this last year, before I went down there, I talked to a couple of guys. I was like, if I get musical, you guys got my back this weekend? And they're like, yeah, we'll write you something. I'm like, okay, cool.
I just have such a fear of, I can't wait, horror, action, musical.
Yeah. The one that I did in Kokomo, I drew romance, and I had like a plan in my head for every genre, like going down there. Like, okay, like I had all these different ideas. I drew romance, and I was like, I didn't even think about romance as being an option. And when we won that one, it was like, I ended up, I don't know, I'm really proud of that one that we put together, because I spent, I'm a person who thinks that, without the writing, like the writing is the most important part of the entire thing. So for that particular one, I spent the first probably 24 hours just writing it. And then we spent 6 hours shooting it, and then the rest of the time editing.
Yeah. If you cannot stay up all night, don't do a 48-hour film fest.
Yeah. Stayed up all night writing, what was like 5 pages.
and hope that your actors can actually get it done in that time.
I felt really bad for my lead actor in that, because he was like, I'll do it, but just be careful on how many lines. And he had so many lines. So many lines.
Your monologue.
Oh, it was so much. There was so much. You can't really tell, but that script is on the table in front of him the whole time we're shooting that scene. but yeah, he had so many lines.
Well, all the greats used to have cue cards. Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Hey, sorry to interrupt your podcast listening pleasure, but I just wanted to let you know that the Working Writer Podcast finally has a sponsor. That's right, our first sponsor. And our first sponsor is Fiberglass Freaks Batman Museum. That's right, I said Batman Museum. It is a museum dedicated to the 1966 television show. Adam West, the greatest Batman ever put on film. I will fight anybody for that. Burt Ward is Robin. Is a museum dedicated to that show. They actually have screen use props. Right now they have the number 4 Batmobile built, and that was a screen used Batmobile from the show. It is on display there. It's run by Mark Rakup, who owns Fiberglass Freaks, Warner Brothers' only official 1966 Batman replica builder. And I'm not talking about some little toy. I'm talking about fully operational, full-size Batmobile replicas that are fantastic. You can see them at the museum. You may even take it for a tour of the shop. Everything you could want from your childhood is at this museum, located at 525 East Market Street in Logansport, Indiana. It is worth the drive. It's worth the trip there. Everybody who goes there loves it. Say hi to Mark. Say hi to Abby, the manager. Great gal. It's a fun time. So when you go there, be sure to tell them that Working Writer Podcast sent you. So now, let's get you back to what you came for, the podcast. Speaking of film festivals, you used to run 2 film festivals here in Indiana, one for action and one for horror. What was it like getting into the film festival business, if you will?
So when we started out with a horror film festival. So it was Midwest Horror Fest. And we did that for a year. And we did that like in October. And then we did it, I think, the following October. And then after that, we started the Action Fest, because I wanted to know what independent action looked like. Because I have a very strong idea of what indie horror looks like, because I've been making indie horror. I know a lot of people making that stuff. I had an idea of what that was going to be. It got blown out of the water as far as the stuff that was submitted to us, though. I mean, we got really incredible stuff there. The indie action one, like Midwest Action Fest, that one was like action, adventure, and comedy films. And that opened up just a door to a lot of genre stuff that doesn't get a lot of attention, I feel like, in the film festival space. There's a lot of horror stuff, there's a lot of drama, and there's definitely a lot of comedy stuff, but I just was like, what if we did something that was centered all around action? And we got to meet some really cool people doing that. But it was myself, my wife, a friend of ours, Dan Murphy, helped start it all. We all came together and put this thing on it was an independent film festival. The tagline was like, for filmmakers by filmmakers, because the entire thing was, can we give these indie artists like the red carpet treatment and make them feel special for a day? We had filmmakers that came to Logansport from Japan, their first time in the States, to see their movie played at the State Theater. And then we became friends with those guys. They don't speak any English, but we, just through Facebook Messenger, it like translates it. And we became friends with those guys. And then the director reached out to us and wanted us to be in his next feature that he made. We shot, and they do a lot of green screen stuff. So we just shot our scenes in front of a green screen and sent him the footage, and he cut it into the movie. And so my wife and I and a couple of our friends are in a Japanese indie movie. So
nice.
We're the only English speaking people in the movie, and it's got Japanese subtitles up when we talk. It's great.
How many, especially with an independent film festival like these, how many entries would you get in a normal year?
For the Horror Fest, it was a lot. It got to a point where it was, the reason we stopped doing them was because doing 2 film festivals a year, we were only watching indie movies every day. I mean, it was every day, because the Horror Fest one, I think our last year, I want to say we had close to 500 films submitted, and it was outrageous. We had a team of people watching them, built like a rating, like in Film Freeway, they give you a rating system, but we utilize that rating system so efficiently, trying to get, like if it was a dud, just mark it as a dud. Like, we trust your guys' vision, so that way we're not all having to watch that one necessarily. So it's like, but if it was, you can mark it if you think it's award worthy and things like that. So we got it to the point where we could really like kind of whittle through them as a group of people, but also, a lot of it was my wife and I watching every movie. We watched everything. Everybody else watched the ones that we kind of sent them to be like, okay, what do you think about this one? But when you're running a film festival and any project, you're directing a movie, you're doing any of this stuff, nobody cares about it as much as you do. You know what I mean? It's hard to get people 100% committed like you are. So, and it was the same with the film festivals.
At what point did your wife finally turn to you and say, let's just watch Seinfeld tonight?
No, she's a trooper. If I'm being honest, in that last year of the Horror Fest, she watched the majority of those movies. I was working full time and was kind of just getting burned out on the film festivals. And she's the trooper. She was the host of the whole thing. I ran all the tech and was behind the scenes mostly. She was the face of the film festival. She hosted the thing. She talked to all the actors, like all the filmmakers that came in. She's it was more her baby than it was mine at the end of there. That's for sure.
Now, what did you learn? By the way, you said that about the horror. How many would you have in the action comedy genre?
It was significantly less, but it would still be over 100 movies submitted. In the first year, it was kind of low, but by the last year, I think I want to say it was about 200 still, though. That's still a lot of movies to watch, especially when that last year. That's 700 total films we had to watch, of varying lengths. The short films would always get knocked out super, super quick. Everybody'd be willing to watch a short, but when it came to all the features that got submitted, it was like, come on, guys, can you watch some of these movies with?
And did the independent action film stand up to the quality that you were getting from the horror genre?
Man, the action stuff. There's one particular movie called Past and Future Kings, which I think you can find on YouTube now. It's available on there. The crew behind that, the director's name is Raphael, but the crew behind it, they work on all the Fox. They're from Canada. So they came from Canada to watch their movie played. And then they came the next year just to come to the film festival and hang out. And they didn't even have a movie submitted.
Nice.
They are the like weapons handlers and like stunt choreographers for all the Fox Montreal, like the Fox X-Men movies.
Yeah.
So like they've worked on all the X-Men films, and one of the guys in it, Jason, he's in you know, Screamers.
Sure.
He's in that movie. He's in the newest, not the Scream movie that just came out, not Scream 7, but Scream 6. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that.
I'm
sure producer Dave has, but I have not.
In the trailer for that, there's a guy that gets shotgunned by Ghostface who's like in the convenience store. He's the convenience store clerk, like Jason is. So he's in a bunch of stuff. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, like the video game Guardians of the Galaxy that came out a couple of years ago. He was Drax's voice in that and won like gamer of the like supporting actor of the year in the Game Awards. But anyway, but those guys all came to, you know, Logansport to hang out, and we became friends with them. And the movie that they submitted, Past and Future Kings, is just an incredible production, and it's just from a bunch of guys that know stunt work and, you know, been doing it for a long time, and just put together what is essentially just like a stunt reel of just fighting through the ages. So like you get stuff in that movie from like medieval times through like, you know, like Japan, and then also like into like the 20s, into like modern day warfare. Like, I mean, just tons of stuff. It's super, super incredible feat. But we got action stuff from all over the world, and you got to see movies that were, you know, like from Japan, from in the horror space, you get a lot of movies from like South America that are incredible, just really incredible movies from South America. But in the action space, we also got stuff from like Germany and like Russia that were really cool too. I mean, we just got some really just incredibly well shot, extremely like choreographed stuff.
Now, after running the film festivals, what have you learned for the listeners we have? They're trying to break into the business. What have you learned about how to get the attention of somebody running a film festival with your film?
You know what?
Besides taping $100 to the box.
That's a hard question, because we, on the other side of that, we make short films and submit them to film festivals all the time. You know, we have an idea of what they accept and try to cater towards that a little bit. So my advice would be is, if the film festivals you are submitting are local enough that you can go and attend to those film festivals and see what kind of movies they accept. Because we have a movie playing tomorrow at Horror Hound in Cincinnati in their film festival, and that movie's called Serial Dating. When we shot that, Michael Taylor wrote it. He stars in it. When we put that together, we were putting together something that was going to be what Horror Hound would like. Like we took that into account. We made a dark comedy that's pretty gory. You know, the gore is part of the joke of the whole thing. And so when we were putting that together, we were putting it together with the intention of submitting it to Horror Hound, and knowing we go there every year and we watch the movies that play, and we kind of know what they like, what their tastes are. So that's kind of like the insider little hint is, if you can go to those film festivals, see what they accept, see what they give awards to, see the kind of people that they think are good filmmakers. You know what I mean? Because it's all subjective. You know, the movie that I think should win the award when I go to those things usually doesn't. And it's you know, what do those judges like? What are their tastes? What are they looking for? And they, you know, if you go to the award ceremonies for those things too, you get to see what it is that they, you know, what they're looking for. They kind of, you know, they'll explain that these are the movies we were looking at for this award, and this is why we gave it to them. And so, yeah, just go to film festivals. But from my perspective, we knew what we would accept in stuff. So there's a certain amount of quality that you're looking for, but there's also, and I said it once before, but you know, I'll preach it all the time. Story first. The writing is where it's the strongest. Sometime there have been the occasional movie that would come in that was definitely, you know, zero production value whatsoever, but was written extremely well and had very charismatic actors in it that sold the whole thing, even though the production itself was really low. I would still be like, yes, this movie has to play it, because this movie is going to get laughs. It's going to be a good time. People are going to like that.
So for all you writers, you heard it here. Write. get your craft going, because that is the basis on what everything else is built. Now, on the inverse of that, when you're watching these films, getting ready for a film fest, what is the quickest way to get your film turned off? What is the thing that just ate at you when you would see it from a film that made you just go, no, absolutely not?
Typically audio. I mean, if the audio is really bad, I'm not going to put people through that. I think it's something that's preached online all the time. People will watch a movie of low quality, like visuals, if the audio is good enough to keep their attention. But if you could be watching, Oppenheimer, but if the audio, Tenet's a great example, actually, because Tenet's a movie that is gorgeous looking, but you can't hear any of the dialogue. And that is the one complaint that people have about that movie, is that they couldn't understand what was being said. They couldn't follow the story. It's a very convoluted story, but it's because the audio is so buried that it's hard to keep up with what's going on in a story that's so like dynamic in its structure that you're like, I got to hear what they're saying if I'm going to be able to follow this at all. One of the things I think that people forget about, myself included, until recently, is when you're putting together a budget for your movie, is to put together that film festival budget, because it gets expensive to submit your movie to all these places.
Right.
And so it is definitely a thing where you just have to, if you can find a producer that's willing to throw a few $100s at just the submission fees alone, that's like a great help. We try to do that. Sometimes we just reach out to somebody and be like, hey, you want to watch this short we made? Do you like it? Do you want to help us get it into some film festivals? Because budgets are, it's the thing that stresses me out the most about making a movie, is finding money.
A little bit of a twist here. For beginning writers, would you suggest that they go to places like in Indiana? We have the Indiana Filmmakers Network that people get together at. Would you suggest that beginning writers go to places like that and grab producers and directors such as yourself?
Beginning writers,
get them to look at what they're writing and give them
I
advice?
I think that places like IFN, if you can go and sit in on some meetings, meet some people, talk to some people, get to vibe with those people first, and then pitch them something. I don't think it's smart to just show up and start pitching your thing to everybody that'll listen. I do think that you need to build some camaraderie a little bit. You have to get yourself out of that. I mean, I know a lot of writers, and I'm a pretty social person, but as I get older, I get pretty like introverted. But I know a lot of writers.
Yes.
I've got friends that are writers that, don't leave their house very much. And so I know it can be hard to writing is a solo. This is a solo art form for the most part. I mean, you got your probably small core group of people that you send scripts out to, that you get notes back from. It's hard to find people that give actual constructive criticism. I do that with my movies. You get people that are just like, it's great. And you're like, I don't want you to tell me it's great. I want you to tell me what's wrong with it. But as far as beginning writers go, I wouldn't, just immediately go into these spaces and start pitching everything. But I would go to those spaces just to mingle and hang out and network and get to know some people, and get to know people that you like their work and you've seen some stuff. But those kind of spaces are full of people who would read your script and at least give you some notes back on it. If you just want to get some eyes on some stuff you're writing, that's a perfect place to start. But also your local coffee shops are a good place to start. Here in Logansport, we have a coffee shop that they have a writing group that meets once a month, and that writing group is mostly like poems and short stories. But they also there's some guys in that group and women in that group that are former English teachers at high schools. Like they're putting together this stuff and they do it for fun. But if you need to workshop something, groups like that are a great place to start too, because they also like movies. They know writing. They know what good story what a good story is. So just get it in front of people who actually understand the craft. If you're just sending it to your friends that don't write, or your family that doesn't write, you're just going to get, that's great, good job.
I understand. Well, Tony, this has been a fantastic conversation. I can't thank you enough for coming on here. Tell the folks where they can find you online.
Well, I guess I'm kind of hard to find online sometimes. I my wife and I had a baby 3 years ago. He's 3 now, but we're starting to get our life back. But Rad Entertainment, pretty much anywhere on the social media sites you can find us. Facebook is probably where we're the most active, but Instagram is anthonydavid.director, TikTok anthonydavid.director. I'm more active on TikTok anymore, it seems like, than anywhere else. But you can find some movies that we've made on Tubi and Amazon. Check us out. Check me out on IMDb, and there's a bunch of stuff on there that you can find online.
And there will be links on here to the Tubi stuff and to the YouTube channel. You can catch them at Horror Hound tomorrow, this weekend in Cincinnati. You've already been accepted to PopCon, so they'll be going on. Is that the end of May?
I think so.
I think the PopCon's the end of May, and then Comic-Con's August, I believe, or June, July, something like that. I can't keep track of when everything is, but be looking for his stuff. Tony, thank you so much. Best of luck, and we will be talking to you again later. Come on, Dave. We are falling so far behind. I haven't made 30 films. As far as I know, you haven't made 30 films yet.
Actually, I've been 45 the last time I counted.
All right. So you've done a lot more than I have. Hey, thanks for making me feel just that much older. I appreciate it.
That's okay. Well,
we have not run film festivals.
That's true. And some of the films I asked not to be credited, or
that's true.
For a different name, just because it didn't really come out as well. Like you could do the best you can sometimes, but and I've told people this forever, and Anthony actually a kind of a good point when I'm telling people this. I've worked in New York City, I've worked in California. Still to this day, my favorite filmmakers to work for are in the Midwest. Their passion and their drive to do things outside the box is out of this world, to where I'll work with people in New York and they'll have a budget, but they have no vision. And it's like such a bland thing. And
well, there's a quick story. I was doing a film at our home base, the Scatatuck, and they had hired a Chapman crane to come to be shipped in from California to get a 30-foot crane shot, just for one shot. Now, a Chapman crane, when you rent a Chapman crane, it comes with 2 operators, and they come along with it.
Right.
It gets to Indiana. The 2 people are there. Half of the crane did not ship.
That's a problem.
So no Chapman crane. And for those of you who don't know what Chapman crane is, you put a camera on the end of what looks like a big boom arm, and you can go up 30, 50 feet in the air.
But to say that, and I remember this, do you remember the video we made for North Vernon that got the money?
Yes.
They put me on a bucket truck, and I got the exact same shot. So,
and that's what I did. I looked at the producer, and I said, "Well, would you like me to go get an apple picker?" And he goes, "What?"
A what?
I said, we've got a bucket truck that'll go up. It won't go 30 feet, but I'll get you 20 feet in the air. We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Just shoot the camera straight down. It'll be fine. And they hadn't even thought of that, because that's not a union thing. I got yelled at for picking up a sandbag to help move something.
Can't do that. That's a Teamster thing.
Yeah. And it really makes a difference, I think, with the mentality we have here, which is hey, let's all work together and all get it done.
Everybody pitches in, everybody works hard, everyone's really respectful. And it's a similar story, not to get off topic, but I shot a commercial for Steak and Shake in 2020, right before the pandemic, because the pandemic hit and they actually were like, we can't afford to pay you guys because of the pandemic. I'm like, we shot this before the pandemic. So we had to take quite a pay cut to do it. But they showed us this shot that they had, and they go, yeah, we had this $100,000 robot arm, and the camera just zoomed over from one burger to another. And I'm like, get me a towel. And we'd used a towel, and we got the exact same shot.
Exactly.
And they just looked at us like,
we know what it is. They were too busy starting to invest in beef tallow. So
yeah, that's probably what it was.
They couldn't afford it.
But yeah, it was great seeing Anthony on here. He's got some.
Yes.
I really am excited to see his film that's coming out at Horror Hound, and anything that they're coming. I know he's got a feature that he's working on. I can't wait to see that. And it's really incredible what you can do from small town Indiana if you just don't take no for an answer and you just go out there and like, I'm going to do this.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's not just small town Indiana. We just happen to be Hoosiers. We happen to be in Indiana, or I am still in Indiana. Dave's from Indiana. This is anywhere. Yeah. This works anywhere. This small town mentality of getting it done right, and enjoying it. You know, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, find another part of it to do, but get it done any way you can, especially on the writing side. So I really enjoyed having him on here. Now, remember, no matter what you're writing, no matter what it is, whether it's a script, a poem, a song, you just have to get out there and create it. Don't stop. Don't make yourself sit there and go, I can't do this, because you can. We know you can. You know you can. Anybody can create. You just have to do it. Thank you for joining us here. Please write to us at workingwriterpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. Leave us a review on wherever you're listening to or watching this from. Follow us on all the socials, to include TikTok. Even though I'm not really up on it, it's there. So enjoy us and follow us on there. And remember, until next week, make the most of your time and keep writing. Remember that writing is more than just a job. It's a passion. Do your job, pay your bills, but follow your passion. Now, get to writing.